This episode is going to be a bit of an odd one. I have something on my mind that I would like to talk about. I'm not actually playing the game right now. Anything that you see will be post commentary, so if you just want to put on the video and listen to it, that would be fine. I've been talking about this game for a while, and some of the game comes from personal experiences that gave me a perspective on things. Now, let's start at the beginning. In high school, I met this girl. She was nice, kind of interesting. She liked to sing, and it was the singing that I really liked about her. So I decided to hook up with this girl, and yeah, I was a little bit messed up at the time. I felt that I wasn't one person, I was two, and I tried to explain this to her as best as I could. And a couple of months later, my father passed away. And my mother decided to go nuts. She started drinking horribly. She drank so much that she'd black out. And, well, I was accused of assaulting her once after she fell down the stairs. And she didn't remember this for a week. Wasn't a happy time. I was getting away as much as possible. Uh, she blamed me a bit because I was rather cynical towards the world, towards everything in general. He was a beat up old man at the time, and he was only like 45 years old. He'd had back problems, and his back was disintegrating from the inside. All of his cartilage was gone. So I left home. I did some things that perhaps I shouldn't have. Mostly it was saying things. Actions only speak louder than words when there are actions to perform. And I moved in with this girl. I thought it was a good idea at the time. That things were all nice. She could help me through this. We were in love. And, well, it kind of went downhill from there. She really stopped singing, and the world just kind of turned into a way for her to push away her friends and push away everybody. In fact, I had already done this. I was living alone, basically, with her in her house. We were living in her parents' house still, and her entire world started to center around controlling me. This went on for a couple months before I recognized it. I didn't want to leave her, and I wanted to get out in the world and do my own thing, so I was looking for a job. I got a job. It was a really, really bad job. You don't want to take care of people who can bite you. It may be another time for that one. It was a couple. I worked there for a couple months, and then I stopped. That put a bit of strain on the relationship, and I think it was the favors, really. I was starting to be asked for favors, and I don't like doing favors to begin with. I never have. I don't like promises. It feels like I owe people something. And when it's a favor to go put something in the sink or to go, well, it's anything that anybody would ask of anybody else in a close relationship. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was trying to use anything that she did for me in the same fashion as leverage to try and get her to do things. So this was a really bad relationship, not so much on the physical side as it was complete control over everything that I would do and say and even think after a while. And towards the end, we had a lot of fights. And I decided that it would be better for me to leave with no job, no nothing really, and just go out into the world and live on the streets, be homeless. So began the time when Imdio was homeless. The homeless period lasted for about 4 months. The first day I went and applied for food, the government, and they awarded me food pretty much instantly because I was homeless that day, and um, I wasn't in the best state of mind after throwing myself out of an abusive situation, and I didn't even say that. They just, I think they could tell that something was wrong. They were nice people. Uh, so I went to the nearest large town. It was 60 miles away. I used my bicycle to get there. I got there in one day. It was towards the end of the day. I had to find somewhere to sleep. So there was a mission. I don't remember the whole name of the mission, but it was a mission. They have homeless people come there, and you get to sleep, you get food. I thought this was okay at first. At first day, they have chores basically, and they want to get you to do all the chores and go to the chapel. And I was working selling knives at the time. They were really good knives. I had only been doing that for a week or two, so I wasn't very good at it, and I didn't have all of the things spread out to where I could network and sell more things, so that petered out really quickly. So the first night was fine. I got a place to sleep. The problem was they woke me up at 5:30 in the morning, and I've talked about the sleep problem before. Basically, I cannot get up at 5:30 in the morning more than 2 days in a row without ending up with 4 hours of sleep. And at the time, if I got 4 hours of sleep, I would get a migraine. Yeah, light was bad, sound was terrible, and everything hurt. And so I was using excuses to stay out as long as possible and try to wake up later. That didn't go over too well, and the way they had it set up was they wanted you to be there for a lot of time. You only had the time during the day when normal people worked. After, well, you had 5:30, but they wanted you to be there for a couple hours so you could do all the things like clean and go to the chapel. And as nice as it was, I didn't need the food, and after a few days of that, I didn't need the place to sleep anymore. So I went and I just left. It was a week later, and I'd had enough of it. There was a rather large park nearby, and by park I mean guarded or fenced off wooded area. This is not like your normal park with the grass cut down and the occasional tree with the sidewalks. No, this is more like a wilderness area. Um, it was right next to a river, and the total area was large enough to where I found a spot that I could sleep. It was the middle of summer, so I wasn't worried about anything like rain or cold. I just grabbed a sleeping bag, found a nice secluded spot next to a walking area which wasn't well traveled, and there was a little hill. I pulled up out of sight on top of the hill, and I slept there. That was the best night of sleep I'd had in about 6 months. Well, the next day I resolved to find myself a job. So I went and I started looking. I didn't have much else to do. I didn't have anywhere to go. So I'd go to the library and I'd look on the internet for work. I'd walk around town, bike, I'd take the bus, whatever I needed to do. I'd be spending 10 hours a day just looking for work. I wasn't the best presented at the time. I'd try to keep my good clothes pressed so I had a nice shirt and a tie for the purposes of job hunting so I could impress as many people as I could, even if they were wrinkled. It was basically the same thing every day: get up, eat, go off and look for work, stop for an hour or two, go buy lunch or prepare lunch or whatever it was, and go look for another 6 hours and then eat some more, go to the library, because the library was open pretty much every day of the week, and they'd be open late into the night. I could read books, and it was warm. It's really all I wanted was a warm place. I read quite a few types of books while I was there, and this went on like that for a couple months. I started getting used to it at the end. It wasn't that bad. It was more like I had a purpose. I had things to do. I was learning things. So I was trying to get out of my situation, but the situation was seeming more and more normal as time went by. Uh, this was back when the recession was just getting started. So the whole everybody's looking for work? Yeah. I was looking for work. I watched the jobs disappear. There were jobs for a while, and then there was less of them, and then there was less and less, and I have a lot of skills. I can do a lot of things. The military says I can do literally anything because I'm tradable for that, but with the medical problems that I had, I no longer have most of them, by the way. And I did apply to go into the military because I was homeless and I was looking for a way out. The Navy seemed like a perfect way to be helpful. You know, I didn't have anywhere else to go, and I had a lot of skills. They like people who have that, but if you have migraines, they won't take you. You got sleep problems, they won't take you. And I didn't have a lot of money in the past, and they had student loans that I didn't get to repay, and there was one in particular where my money was mismanaged and lost that I needed to go talk to a lawyer about. So if we go forward a couple months, this is about 3.5 months, I had been approaching like local businesses and apartments and such looking for low cost housing. I didn't realize it at the time. I was looking for a way to a place to be, really. I was looking for a government program that would help me. And I ended up getting an apartment through HUD, the housing development people, and this is where I am today. I I had a phone. They had called me after I had applied over there for a couple months. They put me on top of the list because I was homeless and looking for work, and yeah. And a couple months later, they called me back. I came in. The This is America. Believe it or not, I had to get a security deposit of $25, which I did not have, and I didn't have the means to get at the time. I had to go to my family, which my mother was. This was the first time I had talked to her in a while, and well, we made up, sort of. It took a long time. I had agreed to go out there every so often just so we could patch things up. I've been visiting there once or twice a month ever since. We have a lovely time. I had just asked for the money. I had asked for some of my relatives if I could do work for them. I ended up with twice the amount of money that I needed, and I had worked for about 10 hours to get it, but that's okay. And I came over here and I moved in, and the first night I had absolutely nothing except the backpack and the bicycle I had. So I got an empty apartment with nothing in it. The electricity wasn't on. I slept on the floor. It wasn't quite as comfortable as sleeping out in the park, but it was really nice to have a home. It was just really nice to have somewhere to go and someone I had somewhere to be during the day, and I didn't have to do my random things just looking for work. Before this, I had been bouncing around between some of my relatives, and I would go out every day and look for work and try to find a place to live. And I threatened to go back to the park a few times because it wasn't actually a bad place to be versus somebody's couch. In the middle of summer, it's nice and warm. They didn't like that so much. But me being there and needing to wake up later in the day than they did caused problems sometimes. I would stay up late, regardless of whether I would try to sleep or not, and I would get up late. Now that isn't so much of a problem as it is a. I don't even know if that's a problem anymore. I've been getting up at the same time every day for the past 10 days, and I've been going to sleep at the same time too. Well, needless to say, this is the basis for the. Well, it's part of the basis for my game. I'd been camping a lot when I was a kid, and I lived in a place where we had a good school, and there was a guy that would come in and he taught us how to navigate in the woods with the compass and how to make a lean-to, and he was one of the wildlife managers, so he taught us about fish ladders and wildlife cycles, things like that. I guess it's something that I've been both interested in and taught from a young age, but when I was in school in town, it seemed like it either didn't matter to other people or they just didn't have the exposure or they didn't care. And what I want to do is I want to bring some of this experience into the game itself. I want to take the time that I was homeless and I want to take some of the experiences that I had when I was growing up, and I don't want to preserve them. I want to share them. And it's not really a good way to share them unless you do it either in a real environment or something that could be a real environment if you just gave it a chance. I'm not sure that all of the concepts and all of the things you have to worry about are going to carry over into a game. But I can tell you that things magically poofing out of existence when you bonk them on the head is so unrealistic that sometimes it breaks my willing suspension of disbelief. Willing suspension of disbelief. Yeah, these are things that I would think about while I was at the library or just out biking. Because sometimes I would bike 6 hours a day just to get from one town to another while looking for work. And this is actually why I'm not looking for work anymore. I had looked for so long and marketed myself in so different ways, and I had even gotten to the point where I saw fast food places needing a college degree, which I didn't have. I was actually going to college before this, and, well, life decided to tip everything upside down, and, well, I wouldn't say ruin my life if it wasn't true. Really turned everything inside out. I think I'm going to leave this one here. I have a few other stories. I don't have a whole lot of stories, but the ones that I do have can be really interesting or unique or such. I can really say that I have an insatiable thirst for knowledge because of this. I don't ever want to get into such a situation again where I have to whore myself out to look for something that doesn't exist. I would rather go off, walk into the woods with survival gear and live there instead of walking around in society and looking for work that just isn't there. I think I'm going to have to stop here before the sheer weight of these memories make me break down entirely. So, we'll have some more interesting building projects next time. Thank you all for watching, and find truth in whatever you do.